All right. So have you ever felt like there's something more to all this, to like everything, like a whole hidden world we just don't see?
Yeah.
Oh, you're not the only one. When that excerpt from Witchcraft, Theory and Practice by Lang DeAngelis came in,
Mm.
I've got to admit, I was a little nervous.
Right.
But this book, it's almost like a self-help guide to witchcraft.
Right.
It's all about encouraging us to tap into our own power.
It really is. It's fascinating how DeAngelis takes witchcraft and she really moves away from those stereotypical images of, spell casting and cauldrons and focuses on the internal work first. It's
Okay.
about cultivating a really strong sense of self and understanding, how you fit into this vast universe. And it's from that foundation that we can even begin to even consider the possibility of shaping reality.
Yeah, and I think that's what really resonated with me is how much she emphasizes personal responsibility and self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Like the book starts off talking about meditation,
Mm-hmm.
visualization, even contemplation. Like those are not things you necessarily associate with witchcraft.
Exactly. But these practices are crucial in so many traditions. That idea of know thyself that you find across spiritual paths is really central to DeAngelis' approach. Witchcraft, in her view, begins with a deep dive into ourselves.
And speaking of deep dives, the book talks about this concept of milengro. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
So it's basically all the societal conditioning that makes us doubt ourselves
Yeah.
and give away our power. And she argues that it's that very thing that blocks us from accessing our true potential,
Yeah.
our magic, so to speak. Have you ever felt that? Like you're holding yourself back?
Absolutely. Milangro is insidious, isn't it?
Hmm.
It's that feeling when you silence your own voice, or you shrink yourself to fit in, or you let fear dictate your choices. DeAngelis would say recognizing those moments is the first step to reclaiming your power. Ask yourself, what do I really want to say? What's the fear that's holding me back? That's how you start dismantling Milangro.
That's so true. It's like that feeling when you're about to share an idea in a meeting, but then you're like, nah, they won't take me seriously.
Exactly.
Or when you're dying to try something new,
Yeah.
but you're worried about what people will think.
Right.
And so you just end up abandoning yourself.
Exactly. And according to DeAngelis, breaking free from Milangro is absolutely crucial if you want to practice witchcraft effectively. It's about taking back your autonomy, your right to think for yourself, define your values, and trust your gut.
So it's less about rebelling against society and more about reclaiming yourself.
Exactly. It's about recognizing where you've given your power away and consciously choosing to take it back.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we actually do that? How do we reclaim that power?
Well, this is where those practical techniques, those foundations that we talked about, come into play.
Okay.
DeAngelis really stresses the importance of meditation, especially focusing on the breath, to quiet the mind and connect with your inner voice. And not just like a quick 5 minutes, but really dedicating yourself to the practice.
Like creating a space for yourself without distractions where you can actually hear your own thoughts.
Exactly. She also talks about visualization.
Okay.
And not just daydreaming, but actively creating vivid images in your mind's eye, really flexing that imagination muscle.
I like that.
The book actually describes this really interesting exercise where you visualize a piece of fruit. And I mean, really seeing it, feeling its texture, smelling its fragrance, even tasting it.
It sounds so simple, though. Have you ever tried that?
I have. It's about so much more than just picturing an apple. It's about developing concentration, directing your will. DeAngelis highlights this exercise because it demonstrates the power we have over our own minds, which is often, where we unknowingly give our power away.
That's a good point. We get so caught up in the external that we forget about what's happening internally.
Yeah.
So are you saying that by mastering our minds, we can actually influence the world around us?
That's precisely what DeAngelis suggests. It's about aligning the conscious and subconscious mind, honing our focus like a laser beam.
Okay, so we've done the inner work.
Right.
We've wrestled with Milengro.
Right.
We're meditating and visualizing like pros.
Yes.
Where do the spells and the rituals come in?
Okay.
Because I know that's what everyone's curious about.
Right.
I am too.
It might surprise you, but DeAngelis is very specific about this.
Okay.
And it's not about jumping into elaborate rituals right away.
So it's not as simple as just like whipping out a wand and,
Right.
chanting a spell to get what you want.
It's not quite as simple as that. The book lays out a progression.
Okay.
DeAngelis believes that you have to build a foundation first.
Mm-hmm.
It's about cultivating that self-awareness, understanding your own inner landscape, developing discipline, and ritual and spell work come later, almost like extensions of your focused will.
Okay.
They become tools to shape your reality, not like shortcuts to getting what you want.
Yeah. So you're saying it's more about understanding the energy you're working with
Exactly.
rather than just going through the motions.
Yes, exactly. DeAngelis is a huge proponent of responsible magic.
Okay.
She emphasizes understanding the potential consequences of your actions, working within a framework of ethics and respect, and really understanding that manipulating others for personal gain completely misses the point.
Okay. That actually makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to accidentally summon a demon just because I messed up a chant or something.
Right. It's not about that at all.
Right.
DeAngelis even directly addresses, all the skepticism surrounding witchcraft.
Right.
And she explains that rituals are really about intentionally creating a sacred space.
Okay.
Focusing your energy and tapping into something larger than yourself.
Okay. But she does describe some pretty involved rituals, right?
She does.
Like the self-initiation, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a whole section in there about like drawing a magic circle, calling on guardians, and essentially like claiming yourself as a witch. It sounds incredibly powerful.
What's really interesting about that ritual is the symbolism.
Okay.
It's about stepping into your power, consciously choosing this path, and declaring your place in the world, and acknowledging those forces of nature that connect us all.
So it's about more than just following a set of instructions.
Yeah.
It's about creating a transformative experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
DeAngelis stresses the importance of mental and physical preparation before any ritual work.
Okay.
She talks about reaving, which involves cleansing your energy, getting centered, and clearing your mind. You create a space where you can fully dedicate yourself to the work at hand.
That's interesting that something like cleansing your energy, which can seem pretty out there,
Yeah.
is actually something we do in our everyday lives.
Right.
Like taking a walk in nature to clear your head or tidying up your living space to feel more organized. It's about being intentional with our energy.
I think that's a great point. DeAngelis is all about bridging that gap between the magical and the mundane. But speaking of the magical, there are some sections of the book where she dives into some pretty mystical concepts. Shape-shifting, glamoring, interacting with spirit.
Okay, that's where I start to get a little nervous.
Yeah.
Is she talking about, like, literally turning into an animal?
Right.
Or disappearing into thin air? Because I gotta admit, I'm not sure I'm ready for that.
Well, I think it's important to be mindful about romanticizing these practices.
Okay.
DeAngelis is very clear that they shouldn't be taken lightly, and she emphasizes the need for a strong foundation and a sense of responsibility before engaging with them.
So no turning into a wolf on a full moon.
Maybe not in the literal sense. However, she does tell this fascinating story about shape-shifting that really focuses on the deep connection between humans and nature.
Okay.
And emphasizing personal transformation. DeAngelis describes this visualization technique where you essentially try to merge your consciousness within animals.
Okay.
You embody its qualities and experience the world through its senses.
Wow. That sounds like an incredibly intense meditation practice.
It is. It's about exploring those primal instincts and archetypes that we all possess. It's about connecting with the hidden landscapes of our own psyches.
So it's less about physically transforming and more about embarking on this symbolic journey.
Exactly. And this ties back into the book's overarching theme of personal power.
Okay.
It's about recognizing the vast potential that lies within us all and learning how to tap into it responsibly and safely. But shape-shifting isn't the only fascinating concept that DeAngelis explores.
You're going to mention glamoring next, aren't you?
I am.
It's always been so intriguing, but maybe a little dangerous too.
Right.
Like, are we talking about casting illusions or like putting spells on people?
Well, DeAngelis actually takes a really interesting approach to glamoring.
Okay.
She argues that to some extent, we all engage in it unconsciously.
Oh, really?
Think about it. You probably present yourself a little differently depending on who you're with or the situation you're in.
Oh. Absolutely. Like, I'm definitely not the same person at a work meeting as I am at a party.
Right, and that's exactly what she means.
Okay.
DeAngelis argues that consciously mastering glamoring is about understanding how to intentionally project a specific image or energy.
So it's less about casting a spell and more about understanding how you're presenting yourself to the world.
Exactly. And of course, this is where ethical considerations come into play again.
Right.
DeAngelis stresses that true glamoring is not about deception or manipulation. It's about aligning your outer expression with your inner truth.
Okay.
And presenting your most authentic self to the world. It's about intention and purpose.
I like that, being your most authentic self.
Yeah.
But she also talks about using glamoring to become invisible, right? How is that even possible?
Again, it comes back to the power of visualization and intention.
Okay.
DeAngelis describes a technique where you visualize your energy field becoming so subtle
Okay.
that you basically blend into your surroundings.
So you're telling me if I concentrate hard enough, I can just disappear?
It's not quite that simple, but the book explains that if you master this technique, you might be less noticeable, less likely to attract unwanted attention.
So it's more about deflecting energy than actually vanishing.
Exactly. And this idea ties into the larger theme of psychic protection that DeAngelis explores in depth.
Which makes sense. If you're going to be experimenting with all this powerful energy,
Right.
you're going to want to know how to protect yourself.
Right. And DeAngelis goes through several techniques for doing just that.
Psychic protection. That sounds serious. Are we talking about like actually fending off psychic attacks?
Well, it's interesting. DeAngelis actually kind of downplays the whole idea of psychic attacks.
Really?
Yeah, she suggests they're actually pretty rare.
Oh,
She believes that a lot of what we perceive as an attack is really just our own, unresolved stuff bubbling up to the surface.
oh,
It's almost like she's saying, before you go blaming some external force, take a look at what's going on inside.
so it's about taking responsibility for your own energy.
Exactly. Taking responsibility for your own energy. She emphasizes maintaining healthy boundaries, too.
Okay.
Understanding when to step back from draining situations or people. It's about being aware of the energy that you're putting out into the world.
And she does bring up vampirism,
Yes.
but not like the kind with fangs and capes.
Right. Not the fun kind.
It's more like energy vampires, people who drain your energy.
Emotionally, I mean.
Exactly. She calls them wannabes.
Okay.
These are folks who, she says, try to feed off the energy and attention of others, often by playing the victim or needing constant validation.
Right.
And she explains that, they can be tricky to spot at first because they often present as really caring and supportive.
Well, I think we've all met a few of those.
Yeah.
They just suck the life out of the room.
Exactly. And DeAngelis believes the best defense against these energy drains is simply awareness.
Okay.
Recognize the patterns and consciously choose not to engage.
So just like with everything else we've talked about, setting boundaries and protecting your energy is
Right.
key. Exactly. She talks about different techniques for strengthening your aura,
Yeah.
like visualizing a protective shield around yourself,
Okay.
or even using certain herbs and crystals that are known for their protective qualities. It's about finding what works for you.
This is fascinating stuff.
Hmm.
But I got to ask about the part of witchcraft that always kind of freaks me out a little bit. Ghosts and hauntings. Are we talking like actual spirits here?
DeAngelis takes a different approach to ghosts.
Okay.
She suggests that what we perceive as ghosts could actually be lingering memories or emotional imprints.
Okay.
It's less about supernatural beings and more about the energy that people leave behind.
Wait, so you're saying our energy can literally linger in places?
According to DeAngelis, yes. She even writes about how the beliefs and attitudes of others, especially those we're close to, can kind of haunt us if we're not careful.
That's pretty intense. It's like she's saying we need to be really mindful of the influences we allow into our lives.
Yes, because they can shape our realities.
Wow. So witchcraft, according to DeAngelis, is a lot more than meets the eye. It's about personal power and connection and responsibility. And maybe even bending reality a little. It's about tapping into our own potential and the energy that connects us all. And she leaves us with a really thought-provoking question, too. What's your geese? It's this old word.
Yeah.
Refers to a calling or a quest, like that inner drive, that purpose that's been whispering to you all along.
Yeah. Perhaps this deep dive has helped you hear it a little more clearly.
Maybe it has. That's the magic of a good deep dive, right?
It really is.
Thanks for joining me for this deep dive.
My pleasure.
Until next time.